Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me for this month's Facebook Live. Today, I am going to talk about paper receipts, whether you need to keep them, and how long for. How long do I need to keep my receipts for? If you are a sole trader, you need to keep your receipts for 5 years. If you are a limited company, you need to keep them for 6 years. It is important to note that the date you need to keep your receipts from is not the date your financial year ends, but it is actually January 31st after the tax year ends. This takes into consideration that the end of year tax return must be filed by January 31st of the next year. For example, for the 2019-2020 tax year, your tax return doesn't need to be filed until the 31st of January 2021. In that instance, you would then be required to keep your receipts for 5 or 6 years from the 31st of January 2021. You might need to keep your receipts for a longer period of time if you filed your return late, have been investigated before by HMRC, or are currently under investigation. There is no guarantee HMRC won't ask to see records that go back further, as they can investigate any time period over the previous 2 decades, so you may want to store the receipts for a longer period of time. Do I need to keep paper receipts, or can I digitize them? It is relatively new that HMRC are now accepting digitized receipts for most items, which means you won't need to store the paper copies as long as you have got a digitized copy. With the various cloud-based software and in line with Making Tax Digital, MTD, you can attach the digital copies of all receipts and invoices to the transactions in the accounts, meaning that all of your digitized receipts are in one place. In line with MTD, there are some special items that must be stored digitally in compatible software, but there are some items that HMRC say must still be stored in paper format, and they include things like your C-79, which is an import VAT certificate. You can read about the rules around MTD and digital record keeping by reading VAT Notice 100/22. I will put a link to it in the comments at the end. When do I have to follow MTD? So currently, in terms of MTD, only those who have had to register for VAT due to reaching the VAT threshold need to follow MTD. But from April 2022, all VAT registered businesses will be required to follow MTD, with those businesses who are self-employed or landlords that meet the requirements will need to follow MTD from April 6th, 2023. It would be a good idea to start getting into the habit now in regards to attaching your receipts in a digital format, so that by the time you are required to follow MTD, you already have all of your processes in place. Anything else I need to know? There are different ways you can digitize your receipts and attach them to your accounts, especially if you are using cloud-based accounts software. Some software, like QuickBooks Online, has inbuilt receipt capture software, but I do find it quite basic and not as efficient. You could just scan or photograph your invoices and receipts and attach them to each transaction manually, or you could use third-party software like AutoEntry or Receipt Bank to capture your receipts and send them to your account software. My personal favorite is AutoEntry, and I use this with all of my VAT clients. It makes capturing the various purchase invoices and receipts and getting them entered into the account software more efficient, especially the auto scrape feature, which can be used automatically to retrieve invoices from many different suppliers. If you have any questions about what to do with your receipts or your accounts, feel free to put your questions in the comments and I will reply as quickly as I can. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and don't forget to join me for my next Facebook Live in April 2021.